Good evening. We will call this meeting of the City Council to order and start with a roll call, please.
Mayor Weiss?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lowry?
Here.
Councilmember Feller?
Here.
Councilmember Kern?
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Here.
Please rise for the invocation.
Special Olympics.
And the lady in the red shirt, the blonde one, Heidi.
Two red shirts. This way.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. There you go.
Good job. Thanks. Could you speak in the mic?
Yeah, it's
not working?
Yeah, there's must be some technical issues. Perhaps if you want to try the other podium, we'll see. Yeah, I don't know, but I can give you the handheld mic as well. Sorry.
No.
Okay. I can just enunciate a little more if that works. Neither mics are working.
The cat's louder than you are.
Try that one.
Okay. Again, Brian Richter from Special Olympics here at San Diego County, and thank you all for allowing us to be here. I just want to take a minute. Oh, hello, there we are. Yay! Just take a moment to talk a little bit about Special Olympics, what we are and what we're doing here in your community. What you all received there was a small gift from our tennis team, our Oceanside tennis team. It's a cooling towel that was given to the athletes, and they wanted you all to have one as well. So please enjoy that. Most simply put, Special Olympics changes lives through the power of sport. You may be familiar with us through the World Games and maybe the National Games, but what I think is most impactful and most important of what we do is our local community work, and that's weekly practices and competitions throughout the year serving our athletes here at the city and community and county level. In North County and Oceanside included in that, we have several hundred athletes at 17 different practices here in Oceanside: tennis, softball, bowling. Some of our tennis athletes are here with us today. They also do a couple other sports as well. Across the county, we serve over 3,300 athletes. And so here in Oceanside and across the county, that's actually done for free. So the practices, uniforms, facilities, travel, and meals, we provide for them. Right now in 2018 and 19, we're at a notable moment for Special Olympics. We're at our 50th anniversary. So as we celebrate the last 50, we really are poised to look ahead at the next 50 and not lose sight that we have a lot more that we can be doing, a lot more athletes, community members, and communities that we could be serving. So as I'm here today as a representative of our athletes, I would just invite you to come and meet some of our athletes and the families and our volunteers at local practices or competitions, and I guarantee you, it will actually change your life for the better as well. So thank you again, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
At this time, we would have Isha with the Humane Society to introduce us to Michelle's new cat.
Michelle, is that your cat? No.
Good evening, everybody. Today I have Chenille, and she is an amazing cat that walks on leash, which we discovered by accident. She is 11 years old, and unfortunately, she's been with us for almost 100 days. And we have a lot of animals at the shelter right now that have been with us for prolonged periods. So we are running a promotion called the RAD promotion, and it means ready and deserving for a home, and she has a lot to say. So any animal that's been with us for over 30 days, currently their adoption fee is only $8. And that will be till the end of the month, through December 31st. And to add a little confusion to that, from the 15th to the 24th, we will have the Gift of Love promotion campaign, which is sponsored by our generous donors, and actually all adoption fees are waived during that period. And if you have a puppy and you'd like to come have some fun, we do have the Holiday Mutt Mixer coming up on Friday the 14th at 6 p.m., and we will have Santa, and Santa will be taking photos with your amazing pets. So please come and see us, and if you're thinking about adopting, please come and visit. We have some wonderful animals, including amazing Chenille. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to invite Carolyn Kramer to come up, please, for a very special recognition.
I'm not getting the recognition, but I have some kids here from our Oceanside Middle School and High School surf teams, and we're here tonight to give a proclamation to our youngest one, Katie Simmers, who just won the gold International Surfing Association gold medal in surfing. So, Katie, come on up. Katie. Come on, Katie. And if we could have, yeah, Jesse and Allie and Timo, come on up. Don't you like those smiles? I love them. Yeah. So Katie first started with us in one of our local contests called Surf for the Sea. And I met her there that day, and she really made quite an impression on her surfing ability, and actually all the judges were commenting on how well she surfed. Little did we know that this would blossom into an Olympic almost gold medal, but close enough. So thank you, Jesse and Allie, for giving your support to your daughter, because at this age, it takes a lot of parental support and help to get her this far. And Katie has a really bright future, and she's actually pushed by a lot of her friends and the girls from the middle school surf team. Girls, you want to stand up? Come on, stand up. Let's go. Come on. Yep. These are our future stars along with Katie, and we have a few boys from the high school surf team too. Stand up, boys. Come on. You all get to be recognized tonight. So Oceanside is a surfing community. We know how much it means to Oceanside and to have such wonderful people involved in our sport. So thank you, Katie, for giving Oceanside even more recognition than it already has, and thank you for being a good representative of the sport of surfing. And I know that we'll be seeing you in the Olympics and at least the CT at some point in time real soon. So congratulations to you.
And finally, not on the agenda, but I'd like to invite Councilmember Feller and Councilmember Sanchez to come out here with me. I would also like to invite our city treasurer to come forward, our Deputy Mayor Lowry, and Councilmember Kern to receive some plaques in recognition of your service to Oceanside at this time. So if you'd please come out. So for Councilmember Kern, congratulations, and we appreciate your service to the community. Chuck, thank you very much for your service to the community. Dr. Trickey, same for you. Thank you very much for your service to the community. We wish you all the best in all your future endeavors and really do appreciate you taking the time out of your lives to provide a service to this community. So thank you very much. Mr. Mullen?
Thank you. The City Council met earlier this afternoon in closed session to discuss item 1 on the closed session agenda, conference with labor negotiator involving the status of negotiations with the Oceanside Police Officers Association. There is no action to report on that item tonight.
Consent calendar items 3 through 8. Item number 9 has just been pulled for discussion by the public.
Move approval for balance.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0. Item number 9 is adoption of a resolution adding the moderate portfolio model for the city's Section 115 Pension Stabilization Trust and authorization for the city manager to execute all necessary documents upon approval as to form by the city attorney. Cindy Rocco has pulled this, but we'll first hear from Jane. Yeah.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Jane McPherson. I'm the Financial Services Director here at the City of Oceanside. Presented before you tonight is a consent item to allow us to have another vehicle to invest in for our Section 115 trust. When we set up the trust initially, we chose only one model portfolio, which was a conservative model. And at the time, through time, we realized it would be beneficial to the city if we had another option. Therefore, tonight we're presenting to you for your approval to add the moderate portfolio, which would increase slightly the amount of equities that we can purchase in comparison to the fixed income. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Cindy Rocco at this time may speak.
Hi, Cindy Rocco. I just wanted to make just one sort of comment just because I'm pretty cautiously optimistic. And I know that, and I highly respect the Treasury Department and Jay McPherson for what you do in that department. And I know that you did take the time to go over this investment with me. But the only concern I have is that we initially approved going into this, I think in February, went through some approval basis, and originally it was about $10 million of city taxes put in, and we were going to start out with a small percentage of investment and take on some more equity risk. So we went into the investment pool. So right now, from my understanding, I don't know if it's 2 models in one or not, but the first conservative model is 16% equity, and then the moderate that we're looking at tonight is 33% equity. So then if I look at that, and I save 10 million, then I have like 3 million. Hang on one second. Okay, so about $3 million, and then I look at it and say, well, as a city in our investment portfolio, would we also take that same level of risk? So that's one way to look at it. And the thing is, we're just getting into this investment. I don't know how much time we've had invested, maybe from June for this fiscal year, but I'm just cautious because with the equity markets the way they are, I know everyone thinks it's really great, but we're coming to, I think baby boomers are starting to retire right now. They've been driving the equity market, and once you have them dropping down in consumption, I don't know how we're going to reject. I just think it's too optimistic at this point, and then we should maybe layer and lag in our time give it some performance, because it is a new company and a new investment policy for us. So thank you very much. Thanks for listening.
Look on this item.
Councilmember Feller.
I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0. In addition, on item number 8, Deputy Mayor Lowry has recused himself for item number 8.
We go to 14, please.
Yes, item number 14 is request by council members Jerry Kern and Jack Feller to have Michael McSweeney of the Building Industry Association of San Diego present their report, State of Housing in San Diego County 2018.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members.
Go ahead, Mike. Take it away.
What I want to do is just give you a quick kind of where are we with housing in the county and specifically Oceanside, as well as trying to give you an understanding of why housing costs what it costs. Your first slide here is a picture of building permit activity in the county of San Diego. The line in the middle at 12,000 units per year is what Sandag represents as what they feel needs to be built to match population growth with housing needs. As you can see in the middle, at the very bottom, 2009, we built less than 3,000 houses. And it seems that our new normal now is around 10,000. This data is through September of this year, so that's 3/4 of 2018. Medium home price in the Bay Area, because I didn't have one for San Diego, but this gives you kind of a divergent point. This problem in California goes back 40 years, so it starts in the early 70s, around 1970, 71, when California housing was always a little bit more than the rest of the country, but it really started to diverge to where we are today. This graph shows you the average cost of a home in San Diego County compared to the national average. The data is provided by the California Association of Realtors. Your blue line in the center is basically the trend line of the average of the two. So when you look at where we started to where we are now, we're almost 50% more expensive to buy a home in our county than it is nationally. So the question is why? Part of it is job growth. I grew up and emigrated to California in the early 80s from Cleveland. In 1950, Cleveland was the 7th largest city in the country. Today it's 51st. The jobs left, the people left. I moved to California because I could get the job I wanted. So Kaiser Marston, which is one of the consultants that you use, says that for every 1.7 jobs created, you need to have a housing unit for that person to go to sleep at. If houses aren't built where people work and can afford them, they drive to where they can afford housing. That's why you folks in North County see 66,000 people a day drive in from southern Riverside County, because that's where they can afford to live, yet they work here. This slide shows you a quick population growth. In 1971, the population of the state was 20 million. Today, it's just under 40 million. In 40 years, we've doubled our population. But yet, in the same time, when you look at this slide, the amount of building permit activity is down by over 50%. So we've doubled the number of people that live in the state, but yet we've cut back by 50% the number of houses we build. In San Diego specifically, there's your average permit. So if any of you lived in the county in the late 80s, we had a tremendous number of houses being built. And ever since that point, there's been a dramatic drop-off. So this just, I'm not going to read it to you, but it just kind of explains each decade of where we are from the 80s to where we are now. We're approximately 70% less than what we were doing in the 80s today. This tells you about when the recessions were. So specifically in Oceanside, so my eyes can't read the tiny little print, but I believe at the far left-hand side it's 1980. So you see in Oceanside, like the rest of the county, there was quite a spike in the 80s, but since that time, and especially in the last 12 to 15 years, you've been averaging approximately 300 to 500 units a year being built in your city. So while there seems to be a tremendous amount of construction going on, the reality is we're falling short as a county of what our housing needs are. This shows you the average sale prices in the county, or I'm sorry, in your city, between new and existing homes. The new homes are red, the existing homes are blue. So I just want you to leave you with this. Houses are where jobs go to sleep at night. When a developer or an applicant comes to you and they've met the zoning requirements, they've met all the requirements that your city's planning department and building department have put before them, and they ask permission to build houses, we would ask that you allow them to do so, because houses are where jobs go to sleep at night. I'll answer any questions if you have them. If not, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
We have two speakers on this item. First, we have J.P. Theberge and Diane Nygaard.
Yes, hello. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is J.P. Theberge. I am a land use and housing expert. I'm the chair of the Harmony Grove Elfin Forest Town Council, and I'm the executive director of Grow the San Diego Way, which is a land use think tank. I wanted to address you guys because this information the gentleman has just shared is very good, helpful information. And I just wanted to add to it because I think the nuances are important. What we have here, as the gentleman explained, is a shortage of housing. But it's really important to keep in mind what kind of housing we are short on. So when we look at the regional housing need assessment that's handed down by the state, we're required to fulfill certain levels of housing from moderate, above moderate, priced, low, and very low. So for low income, basically means 80% of median income or lower. So what we have is a situation where in the last 16 years, that chart that he showed was very valid. We aren't producing enough. But what you don't see in that chart is that what we have produced a surplus of is the above moderate category. So the above moderate category, if you look at the last 16 years, which includes 2 RHNA cycles, one was 152% over the need that was required by the state, while above, that's above moderate, and everything below that, we're at 25% of the need. So we underproduced this low, medium, and low income housing. Medium housing is affordable to somebody who makes between 80 and 120% of the median income. So that's actually the average Oceanside resident, the average San Diego resident. So they're producing only 20% or less of that type of housing. That was in the first cycle. Now the cycle that we're in right now, we're still producing above moderate housing at a very high level, actually meeting our need, but we are underproducing. We're at now we're at 9%. So what's happening is we're not producing entry-level homes. We're not producing apartments and condos at the right level. We're encouraging the building industry and the large investor-backed developers to build these big, massive projects that are single-family homes, which are not meeting the need. They're averaging about $650,000. The newly built homes are averaging $650,000 in San Diego County, which is way over. It's like 200%. You need to make 200% of the median income to afford that. So I just want to encourage you guys as a city council to encourage your industry to build the entry-level housing. Don't set aside the general plan to build more housing that's expensive just because we're supposedly in a housing crisis, which we are. We need to encourage that lower entry-level housing for the people who are graduating, who are young families, etc. I do want to thank you guys for your time, and I commend you on a great city that you have, and I hope you can maintain the quality of life that you have in the city. Thank you.
Good evening, Diane Nygaard, representing Preserve Calavera. In the last few months, I've knocked on thousands of doors in Oceanside and talked to thousands of residents. And I can share with you, many of them are concerned about the kind of growth that they're seeing in our community. Of course, we all know we need to grow, but it's not just more. It's how we grow and where we grow, and that we do it in a way that protects our jobs housing ratio. It's not up to us to make up for San Diego County's shortfall in housing. We need to deal with our issues here in Oceanside. And how we do that is critical, and that we do that in a way that protects our open space and protects our agricultural land. And I can tell you whether people voted yes on Y or no on Y, uniformly across this community, they're concerned about protecting that agricultural land from more dense housing. So we urge you to please look at these issues not in a piecemeal way, not just building hundreds of homes on a new project because that's what a developer wants, but looking at really what is best for our community. How do we build a sustainable community with adequate jobs, with affordable housing where there's transit access and access to employment? Thank you.
No further public on this item.
Councilman Kern.
Thank you. Mike, is there any response to that quickly?
First off, developers don't wake up in the morning and just decide to build houses. They build houses based on the need in the marketplace. The reason you're not seeing any entry-level homes right now are $600,000 and above. The cost of land, the cost of labor, and the cost of materials. In the last 2 years, the cost of materials and labor has increased 40%. Not only that, but nationally, 6,000 skilled construction workers a day are retiring. They're my age, they're 60. So it's not that developers choose not to build, they build what will pencil out and what their lenders will allow them to build. So to be able to build a house at $350,000, our developer members would love to do that. They simply can't based on all the costs involved.
Thank you. So just a couple, I'll let Councilmember Feller close. I'll make a couple statements here. You know, one of the things we don't realize that 40% of the cost of a house is in fees. That the idea that, you know, the fees that we add on, and we do this quite often. So, you know, all that goes into to the cost of a house. So Mike kind of said it, pencil out. The idea that, so some of the houses, to actually make them work, they have to be quite expensive to do that. Land, labor, fees, permits, all those things go into the cost of a house. And by the time you add that all in order for them to make a profit, and that's what we do in this country, is hopefully a profit incentive, they're expensive. So I don't know what we can do to change that. Obviously, we feel at the City of Oceanside that our fees are reasonable. You know, we have to pay inspectors and planners and add for roads and parks and all those fees that we add into that to maintain that quality of life, we add on. But that's a cost, and that cost is passed on to the home buyer because of that. So I don't think we should pick up the county's burden as far as building, but we should do our share. And so we are a city, the third largest city in the county, so the idea that we should be able to move forward and pick up our share of the housing. Because the idea that, and the problem is always been, and I've been here for 12 years, and the projects are always the same. The people that have housing don't want any more housing. You know, they say, oh yeah, we're in favor of housing, just build it someplace else. You know, that's always been the problem. They'll say, oh, it's a good project, but just not here. You know, we like this, but just not here. So that's always been the problem. So the idea that we need to step forward and actually try to help people find housing. So anyway, with that, I'm done.
I just had one comment, and maybe you could respond, Mike, for the state's going to require us to do an awful lot, and how do you think that impacts what you presented tonight?
Well, first of all, as an elected official, I would think you're extremely frustrated because you see the state not just slowly usurping your land use authority, but taking it away in giant chunks. And it's real easy for one group to mandate to another, you should do this. But look, the market is brutally efficient. If you try and go against the market, you get wiped out. So, you know, what's being built today is what the market demands and what you can get financing for. There's nobody building entry-level apartments. There's nobody building entry-level housing because it simply doesn't pencil out. You cannot sell a house for $300,000 if your land cost is $100,000. The cost of your labor and materials is $250,000, and 40% of the cost is the time and the fees it takes, and then to try and make a profit on top of that. So There is no easy answer. Some of the things the state is doing, I think, helps nibbles around the edge, but it's really a supply and demand. In the marketplace today, I think everybody in this room has some sort of cell phone. If Apple only made 1 million of these, they'd be $5,000 a piece. So it's supply and demand, and what we've done over 40 years, and you can't fix it overnight. But my message tonight was just, if somebody brings forth a project for housing, and it meets your code, it meets your standards and everything, I realize there's some people that don't like it. I would ask that you approve it.
Thank you. In the late 80s, there was a no-growth advocate, and we killed all the building permits for several years when it was a lot cheaper to build, and I don't think it's going to get any cheaper to build as we go forward. So I appreciate you coming and enlightening us, and thanks.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. I have to agree with with a couple of the members of the public. The demand is for more affordable housing. When we say more affordable, we're talking about our teachers, entry-level teachers, even other people working. That would make so much more sense to have them living within the city and not add to the congestion on the roads. We have to think about our sustainability, economic and environmental sustainability. And what the real problem is that, unfortunately, and this is the way I look at it, is that we have a plan, and it's still a good plan, the general plan. The problem is that the developer community constantly wants to, and we should have bright lines, absolutely, but this constantly changing and converting land from commercial, industrial, to high-density residential is not helping the city of Oceanside in terms of its ultimate priority, which is sustainability, economic sustainability. That is my concern here, and economic development must be priority, because we've fallen so behind. We have the lowest ratio in the whole county, jobs to residents. So I know that this is a tough nut to crack. It does require all of us to be at the table, but we have to look at 2050. We have to look at where we want to be in 2050. I also talked to many members of the community out there, and they did not want to do it convert our farms to high-density residential. In fact, the state law says that is exempt from this requirement of doing more high density for bonuses, but that's what the true problem is. We do have bright lines, and yes, we do have to do some updates to our general plan, but we're going far above and beyond what's best for the city of Oceanside. And the profits, obviously have to make profits, obviously, but at some point we have to do what's best for the city of Oceanside, and that's where the tough part is. Thank you.
Councilman McCurran.
Okay, you want to close or you want me to close? I'll close because it was Councilmember Feller's item in mind. Yes, we have to build housing, and it's going to get tougher and tougher. And the harder we squeeze and try to stop it, the worse it's going to get, because the state's going to come down and mandate it. We are losing control over land use in this city because of the state legislature. And now with the supermajorities of one party in the state, you're going to see a lot of legislation come down that will actually force you to build housing, because we have basically put the brakes on it. We squeezed it and squeezed it and squeezed it. And so now the state's going to come back and say, cities, you no longer have control, that we're going to take control and we're going to force you to build that. So we have to, it's a tough road. We have to chart that course. The idea that, yeah, if we can make it cheaper and sell it cheaper, we would all love that. I would love my children and grandchildren be able to live in North San Diego County. My big fear is we're going to lose a generation. People now are moving out of state to Texas, to Arizona, to Utah, to Oregon, 40% of the houses bought in Idaho last year are people from California because they're trying to go find a place to live. And so we're going to lose that generation that we depend on for the well-being of California. So this was just information. You know, the information was valid, and I think people understand that we have a tough road to go down, but just to understand that there is a housing shortage. Now, how we solve it, I do not know. But at least we're going to have to try. So, thank you.
Item 15.
Excuse me. Item 15 is the adoption of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside adding Chapter 2, Article 16, Section 2.91 through 2.93 to the Oceanside City Code to establish the Measure X Citizens Oversight Committee.
Move adoption.
No public.
Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Item 16 is the second read and adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside amending Articles 1, 4, 4A, 10, 10C, 13, and 30 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance.
Move adoption.
No public.
Please vote.
Approved, 5-0. 13 items off of the agenda. Yes, we have a number of speakers. First, we have Andres Garza.
Mayor and City Councilmen, my issue tonight is going to be about public parking in the City of Oceanside. A major part of the Oceanside economy comes from entertainment and recreation, specifically from tourists and locals. And most of this comes in downtown Oceanside. However, public parking for this is very inaccessible. The only two major parking areas are the Civic Center here and the NCTD or the train station near the beach. What I plan on presenting to you is instead of building new apartments, condos, and hotels, instead we make those areas for parking. That way, when tourists come or locals want to enjoy their time with their families or spend time at the beach, they are easily able to find a parking spot to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to tell you that when is the parking study workshop? It's on our website. It's going to be over at Main Street. I think it's next Monday or Tuesday. But we are trying to do a parking study of downtown, and this is the second meeting we're going to have about parking, so please attend that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Vanessa Humelon.
Good evening. My name is Vanessa Jumelon, a fellow senior at El Camino High School. As a student who frequents the expansive charms of our city, it has come to my learning and personal understanding that many of Oceanside's residents have issues with the current public parking system. Through inquiries through both my peers and other locals, most dread coming to downtown due to the complications of public parking, whether it being insufficient or farther away from their destination. For those residents willing to pay closer to their desired place, for example, the beach, many complain about the insensible prices. In addition, locals living in central Oceanside have difficulty parking in front of their own homes. However, it is understandable that the city of Oceanside does attract tourists and should accommodate to them, but as residents of the city, it is felt that there should be changes to also suit our issues as permanent residents. In hopes of changes, many of us considered a few suitable solutions, such as creating a reasonable parking price for residents, a new parking structure, or following suit with other populated cities by integrating scooters or bikes for people to use, which are cheaper, environmentally friendly, and improvements on the traffic and space. Though there are concerns in having rental scooters and or bikes, like leaving them on sidewalks or high risk when riding alongside heavy traffic, but because these problems originate from pioneer cities, we can learn from their mistakes and improve on it. For example, the issue with scooters flooding sidewalks Docks could be installed similarly to bike racks. For risky riding next to traffic, roads could be altered to accommodate to the safety of pedestrians and bikers and scooter riders. New York City can be seen as an example of this, since they have had this new transportation system for some time. They've made improvements on this modern idea of transportation, especially by prioritizing their streets to the safety of walkers and riders alike. Integrating such a progressive system does have its cons, but through research and identifying the faults that have occurred in San Diego, Los Angeles, New York City, and even San Francisco, then this idea seems more plausible. Hopefully this issue will be resolved soon, reassuring the troubled locals of Oceanside. Thank you for your time, patience, and understanding.
Our next two speakers are Jimmy Knott and Ken Layton. No, two more after that.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. To provide you an update with the senior nutrition meal service crisis, the staff and CEO of the Oceanside Senior Citizen Association, city staff that is, put together a letter that has gone out to all receiving delivered meals and all participating in congregate meals at the center. The letter has briefly explained the economic situation that has forced the association to shut down its operations, with the last meal on December 28th provided by them. And staff has, in the same letter, expressed your commitment to continue on with this life-saving service. Staff has been working behind the scenes to implement your direction to seamlessly continue the meals to our seniors by contracting intermediate providers, such as Meals on Wheels from the county, in putting out an urgent RFP, which has resulted in 2 prospective providers, which are being interviewed next week. Staff have personally told me if it is necessary to keep this commitment you gave, they will put on the cook's aprons themselves to see to your mandate to make sure that our most neediest and vulnerable seniors are fed. This and other actions are taking place behind the scenes. More to come later. On a second issue I was asked to bring forward to you is a bad entryway, an example of what is maybe in store in Oceanside, and that's the off-ramp at Vista Way off of I-5. It's in horrible shape, potholes. I don't know if you've gotten off the I-5 and taken that exit way, but this is a negative example of what the people would have in store to see in Oceanside. If you could take and maybe knock on the door or give a telephone call to Caltrans and say, it's time to fix it, I think that would take and solve the problem. Thank you.
Ken Layton, South Oceanside, speaking only for myself with a tale of 2 cities. Carlsbad has famously upscaled itself over the years. It just hired a full-time innovation officer to make it run even smarter. But way down in Oceanside, we just handed over our $350 million investment portfolio over to someone who put up the most campaign signs, Victor Roy for treasurer. 2 years ago, a majority of council members said you were going to set minimum competency standards to make sure our paid treasurer could handle the job. But guess what? You sloughed it off. You neglected to set those minimum qualifications. like Carlsbad does for its treasurer candidates, to make sure that anyone running has a clue about the complex world of municipal investments. You didn't, and look what we got. Last month, our qualified current treasurer, Dr. Trickey, put before you a recommendation unanimously approved by the Citizen Investment Oversight Committee that you put into effect minimum treasurer qualifications going forward. It appears you've chosen to continue to remain complacent. Instead of making sure the city's investment fund continues to generate just under $6 million in income, which it will do this year, you have telegraphed you just can't be bothered. In the face of oncoming pension-induced financial stress, instead of shoring up this investment oversight, you supported a new sales tax. I served on the not-so-important Telecommunications Commission, and like everyone else on a city committee, I was vetted by the OPD. Next week, you will be swearing in a person to oversee the city's vital investment portfolio who has been vetted by no one. Candidate Roy identified no professional, educational, or life experience thresholds except the fact he was 18 years old. Candidate Roy never told us where he worked or produced a college transcript showing no history, credentials, or background. But unlike music man Harold Hill, who blew into town and only got a youth band, Victor Roy, aka Victor Roy Nash, gets to oversee a $350 million investment portfolio. Please honor your sworn responsibility to look after our city's financial solvency and look into Dr. Trickey's proposal for setting minimum qualifications for city treasurer candidates going forward. Thank you.
Mr. Layton, I have a question for you. So I just want to be clear on what you're saying. Are you saying that Victor Roy is not qualified?
Well,
is that leading the witness?
We don't know, because he's never said what job he's ever had. He's used two different names, numerous different names for the same address in his mobile home park. He said he worked in the aerospace airline industry, yeah. and we've had different reports about what it is. I mean, what kind of a potential fraud issue are we looking at here if this thing goes south? And why would we think that he has any sort of competence to run a $350 million investment portfolio like Dr. Trickey and the other gentleman who was very competent before him did?
I have another question.
Sorry.
So would you feel reassured and completely comfortable with the fact that Mr. Roy said he would take a workshop so he'd know how to do the job?
Yeah.
I heard him say that. That was real.
Exactly.
Yeah. Would that be adequate?
Thank you. I didn't have time to include that, but thank you.
You would feel reassured with that then.
Okay, this is a non-agenda item.
This is comical. This is comical.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Linda Walshaw and Ty Olatoy.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Linda Walshaw, 200 North El Camino Real. The City Council's mission statement says that the Council's goal is to represent the citizens of Oceanside, make policy decisions, exercise financial responsibility and authority, serve the best interests of all citizens, and ensure that Oceanside is a desirable place to live, work, and do business. Number one, to make policy decisions. It is my understanding that Oceanside is one of the only two charter cities that still elects a city treasurer without requiring minimum job requirements be met. Any other ordinary job applicant would expect to provide their educational background list of former employers and prior employment references that can be checked. It appears that in this policy decision, the city has failed to uphold their stated goal. Number two, to exercise fiscal responsibility and authority. The Council has been presented with examples of other cities' policies on the selection of this important position to review, as well as pleased by Oceanside citizens that current selection process be changed for the protection of our city's assets and our citizens. There were problems when former Treasurer Gary Ernst passed away during an election year, but no policy change. Additionally, our current city treasurer, Dr. Trickey, has provided you with a proposal for your consideration to bring Oceanside's selection process in line with the protections afforded in other cities. Yet it appears that the council has decided not to raise this issue publicly or require a vote on the matter. Number 3, to serve the best interests of all Oceanside citizens. How can it be in the best interests of all Oceanside citizens to hand over our city's investment portfolio and CalPERS pension deficit to an individual with no apparent degree in finance or accounting, no employment history provided, and a past record of using multiple names? The council and city clerk were previously advised by other candidates of concerns with Mr. Roy or Mr. Roy Nash when they reported Mr. Roy was not a registered voter during a previous election. All candidates must show proof of identity prior to being sworn into office. The question is, what proof is required? We, the citizens of Oceanside, ask that at a minimum the city properly vet and confirm the identity and background of any and all individuals seeking public office to represent our interests, especially in financial matters. Nothing less would be required of any other job applicant. The city has a fiduciary duty to protect all its citizens' best interests. We ask that you set the matter of policy change on how the city treasurer is selected for a vote on the council's future agenda at your earliest opportunity. Thank you.
I have a question for you. I'm wondering, I just want to be clear, are you saying that Victor Roy is not qualified for the job?
Well, he hasn't provided us any qualifications. There's nothing. Everybody else that ran for public office in this and previous elections posted bios, background, employment histories, family histories.
So it's not sufficient for you to know that a lot of people believe that he is the right person for the job?
Well,
it's off agenda, so you just have to say yes or no. Yeah.
I would say no, it's not sufficient for me, but I've known him for 12 years, and there's very little that we know about him.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next speaker is Rena Morocco.
How many more are there?
There's one other speaker named Ty Latoy, but he's actually, I was just informed he's going to be here after 6 o'clock, so we'd probably hear them after that. Yeah, please.
Hi, I'm Rena Morocco. I wanted to kind of speak on what everyone else was talking about, the city treasurer's office. To judge somebody that the voters of of Oceanside have judged to be competent and able to do this job, I'm just kind of wondering what qualifications the people who have gotten up here to speak against Victor Roy have. Do they have a financial background to be able to judge that? I think to have, you know, some disgruntled people because the election didn't go their way, trying to discredit somebody, I think is not the American way, and it is not the Oceanside way. This election was won fair and square. I trust the voters of Oceanside to make the decisions just as they have in this election and vote for the people that they feel are best qualified and competent. It doesn't, just because some people are disgruntled that they did not win the election, and the person who held this seat is not happy with the outcome of who won. Well, it is the American way, and I've known Victor Roy for a number of years, and I think he's more than qualified for this position, so I would like to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am?
And do we have any general council member comments?
I had a question. I didn't hear where she's from. Where is she from?
Me? I'm from Vista.
Okay.
Ada submitted a form.
She'll be the last one then.
Yes.
Sheila Cada, 1092 Greenway Road, Oceanside, California. Since Mr. Trickey has been in office, the portfolio has gone down from July 1st, 2017 to August 30th, 2018, 4.8%. We have, so I mean, that's a question, you know, how good of a job did he do? And you talk about his name. You know something? My husband's name is Saleh Fareed Cada. He goes by Sal Cada. He has another name too. This happens all the time. Victor Roy, I know Victor Roy. I think he took his stepfather's name, and he was a Nash, and then he took his stepfather's name. He's a very honest person. He's a good person, and he is going to do the best job, and he is very frugal with his money. He watches everything. He makes money. He is going to be great, and you watch and see. You guys will be surprised over this. And you know, why did we voted on him, and the people want him, and now it's like somebody lost, and I'm feeling bad about it, so let's go after him. There's no reason to do this. We should support him. And besides that, don't we have people employed by the city of Oceanside to do to make the suggestions for investing the money and everything? Isn't the treasurer more or less the watchdog, somebody who looks over the money to make sure we don't lose any money, that we know where every dollar is? Victor Roy will do that job, and he will do a great job at it. You watch and see. He's going to be a great treasurer, and we're lucky to have him.
Sheila, I have a question for you. Sheila, I have a question.
Okay.
So you're saying that you believe Victor is qualified to be the treasurer?
Yes, I do.
Did he provide you with anything that demonstrated that he had a degree or something in that area?
Point of order.
Doesn't he have something in finance from UCLA?
No.
Yeah, I think he does.
Okay.
Order.
Okay. We need.
But
we need to
I
end
mean,
this.
Yeah, I think
before Victor,
Mrs. Kata,
before Feline was the treasurer,
Ms. Kata.
There was.
Ms. Kata. Right now the meeting is.
Thank you very much.
Item. We do have one more speaker who Ty did show up before 6 o'clock. So Ty Olatoy. Ty Olatoy, you can speak. Yeah, thank you.
He's not even pushing the button.
Hi, City Council. Wanted to kind of just come up here and actually put a face to the name. My name's Ty Olatoye, and I work on essentially the global expansion team here at Bird. You know, I wanted to thank the committee for essentially giving me the time to kind of give me an opportunity to kind of give a public comment. And I'm very happy to be here in the city of Oceanside. So, you know, here at Bird, we actually believe that Oceanside is perfect for kind of what the city of Oceanside is actually perfectly suited for our e-scooter sharing system that encourages people to get out of cars and more easily get around town. We're grateful for your open-mindedness in learning how best our service can benefit the community by advancing our shared goals of improving mobility and reducing traffic congestion and carbon emissions. Our mission at Bird is to provide an affordable and reliable transportation option to communities everywhere, and that's why we offer our One Bird discounted program for qualified low-income riders and residents here in the city of Oceanside. And we also have our Red, White, and Bird discounted programs for active military service members and also veterans, which many reside obviously in the city of Oceanside. We're thrilled to be able to offer this program to your community here in Oceanside currently, serving our country obviously at Camp Pendleton. Bird also will provide an economic value to members of the community through our charger and mechanic programs by offering supplemental income to residents of Oceanside. And we at Bird look to work in tandem with the current public transportation infrastructure in place to aid in reducing car trips and offering eco-friendly options to replace the 40% of car trips in America that are under 3 miles or less. And lastly, the National Climate Assessment released last month, and it's pretty clear that we have to act with urgency on this matter. And in order for California to reach its 2030 climate goals, cities must make it their mission to encourage residents to eliminate short car trips by offering sustainable alternatives that are affordable and convenient. And Bird's model supports this mission, and we hope to work closely with the city of Oceanside on this to achieve it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Awesome.
Councilmember Kern.
Okay, I just have 2 announcements. One, you're done. Thank you.
That's not one of them.
No. So anyway, 2 things. One, the Holiday Home Tour is this Sunday for Friends of the Oceanside Public Library. The Friends really support the library, so we really need to come to the home holiday tour. It's out on the website, it's the library website, so please come. I'll be there schlepping stuff, which is what I do for the Friends. I carry stuff around all the time. And then the other thing is Friday night at Spring Hill Suites is the last art walk of the year. They'll go dark for the winter months and they'll start again in spring. So please come to the Spring Hill Suites on Friday evening around 6 o'clock for the art walk. Thank you.
Are we set to go to item 10?
Yes. Item number 10 is introduction of an ordinance for zone amendment to change the underlying zoning designation of APN 160-68033 from light industrial within the Rancho Del Oro planned development plan area to planned commercial in order to allow the development of a commercial retail center consisting of 4 single-story freestanding commercial buildings ranging in size from 5,000 to 8,200 square feet for a combined square footage of buildings of approximately 27,200 with associated landscaped areas, outdoor seating areas, public plazas, surface parking, and drive aisles over a 4.9 acre site located on the northeast corner of Rancho Del Oro Road and Oceanside Boulevard, Arroyo Verde Commercial Center, applicant Del Oro Gateway LLC.
Open the public hearing and start with disclosures.
Staff, is this on?
Yeah.
Staff, and we've had a letter or two come into the office. That's it.
Staff and members of the public.
Members of the public.
Staff, and we received a couple emails.
All materials have been provided to the council.
Roll Tide.
Hey, good evening, Honorable Mayor Weiss, and Roll Tide back to you. Deputy Mayor Lowry and distinguished council members, I'm Richard Greenbauer with the Planning Division, and here to present the last portion of the Arroyo Verde Commercial Center entitlement process with a zone amendment for 1703 to change the zoning from light industrial to planned commercial. Got a aerial exhibit that, or not aerial exhibit, but an exhibit that shows the location at the northeast corner of Oceanside Boulevard and Rancho Del Oro Road. The parcel is currently encumbered with a lot of habitat to the east, so I've worked with the applicant for a number of years to bring this to a suitable development standard, and we have proceeded to the Planning Commission, received 7-0 votes regarding the other portions of the entitlement, and as I previously stated, it's just a change to a planned commercial, allow them a greater breadth of retail uses on site. With that, a mitigated neg deck was prepared. We worked with the agencies to ensure proper buffers were incorporated from the retail center to the lease Belverio on the habitat to the east. And staff's recommendation is to introduce an ordinance this evening, changing the underlying zoning to planned commercial, and I make myself available for any questions.
Thank you.
At this time, the applicant has time if they wish to speak.
We do have the representative here, but I don't believe they're going to present tonight, so we'll make them available should there be questions.
Thank you.
At this time, it's a public hearing item. Any members of the public who wish to speak on this specific item may come forward at this time.
Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. This looks like a good, very, very consistent, a good project. Move introduction of the ordinance.
I'll second. Oh, Jack will second it.
Mr. Mullen.
Unless there's any other comments, I'll go ahead and title the ordinance. This is the introduction of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside amending the Rancho Del Oro Plan Development PD1 plan underlying zoning from light industrial M1 to planned commercial PC for certain real property located on the northeast corner of Oceanside Boulevard and Rancho Del Oro Drive, the Arroyo Verde Commercial Center Zone Amendment.
Please vote.
Approved 5-0. Item number 11 is introduction of an ordinance and adoption of a resolution, local coastal program amendment with 2 modifications suggested by the California Coastal Commission, amending Article 30, Section 3006 of the 1992 zoning ordinance and downtown zoning ordinance, and establishing the amended text of Article 30, Section 3006 as part of the implementing document of the local coastal program to establish revised accessory dwelling unit regulations in conformance with Government Code Section 65852.2.
Open the public hearing and start with disclosures.
Staff.
This was has before, so just that.
Staff only.
All materials been provided to the council.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. This is a request for a zone amendment and a local coastal program amendment to introduce an ordinance amending Article 30, Section 3006 of the zoning ordinance with 2 modifications suggested by the California Coastal Commission, as well as a resolution establishing the amended text as part of the implementation plan of the local coastal program. On May 9th, the City Council adopted accessory dwelling unit regulations in compliance with state law. The amendments were subsequently forwarded to the Coastal Commission for certification. On September 14th, the Coastal Commission approved the modifications with 2 recommended amendments to the ordinance. The first amendment is a modification to subsection D2 related to required setbacks, and the language request to be included was that if there's an existing garage or accessory structure to be converted to an ADU or one built above it, that it shall be consistent with all habitat preserve buffers and geological stability setbacks in the certified coastal program. And the second modification is that if an accessory dwelling unit shall be subject to the local coastal program, except that no public hearing shall be required. The suggested modifications are intended to bring the ordinance in compliance with the Coastal Act, the city's coastal program, as well as state accessory dwelling unit law. The City Council is required to take formal action in order for the Coastal Commission to formally certify the ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends the introduction of an ordinance amending Article 30, Section 3006 of the zoning ordinance with 2 modifications as recommended by the Coastal Commission, and adopt a resolution establishing the amended text of Article 30 as part of the implementation program of the coastal program. This concludes my presentation.
This is a public hearing. Any members of the public who wish to speak on this item may come forward at this time.
Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. I move that we introduce the ordinance and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Okay, again, in the absence of any other comments, I'll go ahead and title the ordinance. This is the introduction of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside amending Article 30, Section 3006 of the 1992 and downtown zoning ordinances to establish revised accessory dwelling unit regulations with modifications suggested by the California Coastal Commission.
Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0. Mayor Weiss, before we move forward, we did have one additional speaker on off-agenda items, Carlos Ava. He might have left. Appears as though he's left.
Are there any other general council member comments? Councilmember Kern.
I would, since this is my last meeting after 12 years, I probably feel it's appropriate to say thank you for everybody and all the work that you have done to do this. I mean, it seems like day after day, you know, it's just a slow grind, but then when you look back after 12 years, you see how the city has changed. You know, when I came here, Spring Hill Suites wasn't here. Downtown was trying to revitalize. And so we've finally come to the point now that we've hit our stride. And I think the city is in good hands. I think, you know, the staff that we have in place now versus the staff that was, 12, 13 years ago is much better. The police department has done a much better job. Planning and building is doing a much more efficient and effective job. So I just want to thank all the staff and all the people on the dais for putting up with me for 12 years. And I appreciate all the time that they put into it, and I appreciate the public. So it's been a wonderful ride, and so we shall see what the future holds, but I have to thank you all. Thanks.
So we will be adjourning to a special meeting at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, December 12th for the swearing in of the new council members. But before we actually adjourn, if we could have a moment of silence for this day of mourning for former President Bush. Thank you very much. We stand adjourned.